See the people rise up and solve the great challenges of our time. We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
Yes, it is Larry Sharp. I am here, WYSL, Rochester, New York, on A Free Solution. So happy that you have joined me this afternoon for, I hope, a fun and cool, interesting couple of minutes. Maybe not. I'm going to try, though. I'll give you that. 585-346-3000 is the number if you want to reach out and yell at me or say something cool or whatever. You're bored. Don't be bored. But recently, many of you know, there's been a lot of violence. And I live in New York City. A lot of violence in my city. Queens, New York. A lot of violence. A lot of worry. A lot of concern. And people, of course, are generally doing what we always do, which is jump on one side or the other. And we say, that's it. Lock them all up. The opposite. See, it's social programs. Don't lock anybody up. Odd that we keep doing this every single time. We don't bother trying to figure out what's the root cause, as this happens in waves all the time. How can we prepare for it, stop it, or at least lessen it? If we can't stop it, at least lessen it so that there are less victims. We don't do that. But I want you to imagine something, because I bet you're probably not this person. But try to make yourself in your head this person that I'm going to make up for you right now. Or maybe you were this person. You're 16, 17, 18 years old. Trying to either go to school or think about work or maybe even college or something like that. That's where your head is right now. Am I going to finish high school? I got my worries in high school. Am I going to go to work? Am I going to go to college? What's going to happen? But in this case, I don't know your background, but in this specific case, you're not wealthy. In fact, you're not even middle class. You're struggling financially. Your family is. And you don't even have many examples of people in your family who have done well. There are a couple here that you heard of, an uncle or an aunt or someone who's done well, but most people in your world have not done well. Most of your friends and peer group, they're not even looking for that much at all. They're kind of just there and going through the motions. And all of a sudden now, out of your control, the state says you may no longer go to school. No more school for you. Huh. Now what? And the schools start jumping through hoops, deciding, I guess we'll just pass you, or maybe we won't, or who cares? We're overwhelmed. Whatever. Schools do that. Huh. Okay, well, I can go get a job. If I can't work, I'll go work. State says, no, you may not work either. I can't work. No. Can't work. Can't go to school. Well, what's my future for college? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't know. Well, what's my future for high school? I don't know. Okay. I'm 17, I'm 18, I'm 16, I'm worried. I already was on the fence. I don't have a bunch of cash. I don't know what success is because I hardly ever see it. And you're telling me that the system that I was brought up in is collapsing around me. Not just for 5 months, but for 2 years. Imagine how you think. That's part one. That's part two. Part two is, you're not a 16, 17, or 18-year-old kid thinking about what to do with your life, being lost. You're a bad guy. You're basically a gang leader. You're a bad guy. You do bad things. You don't have a problem hurting people. You don't have a problem dealing in the black market. You don't have a problem blackmailing people. You are a bad guy. That's who you are. You can imagine that. You're probably in your 20s or 30s, and you've probably been to jail at least once, if not twice. You don't know any better, and you think violence is the right way to solve your problems. That's who you are. Now, those people exist. What they often don't have is a bunch of people who will follow them. But by themselves, They do bad things. They go to jail often. And we hardly even notice them unless you happen to be the victim. But all of a sudden now, the state says, hey, all the average everyday things that you should just get in the grocery store, now they're in the black market because we're going to break the entire supply chain. So now everything you want, from toilet paper to guns and everything in between, is super expensive and people will pay whatever. And not just that, the government's going to write checks to everybody and give them money so they can buy these things on the black market if you want. And we just give lots of checks to all types of people. If you're that bad guy, you're saying, wait a minute. So you're giving me a stronger black market so I can make even more money. And to be clear, you're going to give me the recruiting bonanza of a lifetime, literally hundreds of thousands of young, lost 16, 17, and 18-year-old young males who have nothing to do and are lost. Thank you, government. That's what you would think. You think time to start gangbanging. Oh my God, the time couldn't be better. I'm going to make tons of money. I got a bunch of people. And better yet, I got people who are minors. So when I send them out to do my crimes, they don't even go to jail because they're minors. Oh my God. Life is good if you're that horrible person. Your evilness just got magnified literally tenfold across the country. Now, why would I tell you this? Why would I ask you to put yourself in this position? Because you could have thought of this before the COVID lockdowns hit. You could think about this in the future. You could think about this 20 years from now or 20 years ago. Because we did it about 100 years ago. It was called alcohol prohibition. The exact same thing happened. We then did it again in the 70s and 80s. It was called the war on drugs. We've done it more than once. There are going to be bad people in our society. And if you're that bad person, you're going to do bad things. I got it. Hopefully the cops do their job, put you away. That's what I hope. But what I don't have to give you is an army of young men to do your bidding and to multiply your badness by 10 or 20 or and sometimes even 100-fold. I don't have to do that. But man, we do it again and again and again. And then all we do is blame others. See, these are bad people. No, there's a bad person at the center of this, that's for sure. But we just gave them the perfect environment and an army of thugs. And we're mad at them. Don't we take some responsibility for this? Don't we take some responsibility for setting up an environment for the bad guy to expand and to grow like there's no tomorrow? Don't we do that? I think we do. But Larry, it's all about bail reform. It is about bail reform. I do not want to push that away. That is a serious issue that we screwed up 100%. But we did that and it made things worse. Think about that. We did bail reform at the exact worst possible time to do bail reform. There was not a worse time than this. The idea of bail reform is wonderful. We should always make things more equal if we can, of course. Why would you do this terrible bail reform at this time? It's almost as if you don't actually want bail reform. I can't think of a worse time to do it. Not just that. Could you have fixed bail reform? Yeah. 2 ways. Number one, you just make an executive order saying it's for first-time offenders. But Larry, how can the governor just make a rule like that? She's been making mandates because of emergencies. Yes, I'm doing air quotes. Emergencies for 3 years. You couldn't have done that to save people's lives? Literally, not the stuff you said was saving lives. Actually saving people from being pushed in front of a subway train or stabbed or mutilated or murdered. You know, if you were a cop, you might say to yourself, Larry, you're kind of exaggerating here. I'm not. Because if you were a cop and you were a New York City cop and it was before 2020, I must stress this, before 2020, while your job was a very difficult and challenging job, it was. Being a cop is always that, right? Always that. It wasn't crazy deadly. It wasn't before 2020. It was very rare a New York City cop was killed. Like once every couple of years. And there's 40,000 New York City cops. So it wasn't particularly dangerous, as in deadly. I'm sorry. It was dangerous and challenging, but it wasn't deadly. 2020 comes. It's deadly now. Cops get killed in New York City now. That wasn't a thing. It is now. Every year, multiple cops are killed in New York City. What changed? Did we all of a sudden get smarter? Did the cops get dumber? Did the criminals get better? What happened, right? What all of a sudden happened? I'll tell you what happened. The perfect storm. We told gangbangers, leaders, here's an improved black market, and here now is an army. Here's your army, here's your environment, and then we blame somebody else. Who pays for that? The average citizen does, you and me, they had cops, their families, they all pay for it. But I'd say one thing worse. All those youth that we threw away, who are definitely doing bad things, and they're also victims. Our fault. We made them both criminals and victims. Lose for everyone. Am I right? Am I nuts? Tell me, 585-346-3000. Larry Sharp on A Free Solution. WYSL Rochester, New York, back with your calls and the chat after the break.
Now,
your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow.
Okay, Larry, we have a call. Kevin from Irondequoit.
Downtime and affect your bottom
You're welcome.
line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever need a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
only available in the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com. Official top quality TV.
All right, after Kevin, we have Keith from Rochester.
The already famous Mount Rushmore line of merch depicting Mount Rushmore style are for worst presidents. Of course, you know who is front and center up on that mountain. WYSL official items make perfect gifts, or they're a great way for you to make a personal statement. Locally produced and sold only in the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
It is Larry Sharp here on WYSL Rochester, New York, Free Solution. You might say to yourself, Larry, this show sounds pretty cool. I think I want to listen to it or watch it more often. You can. It's on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. every week. And how do you find out? Easy. You can follow us on either Facebook or on YouTube, Our Free Solution. Win-win. I love it. Let me grab a couple calls if I could. The first call I will grab is Kevin from Irondequoit. How are you?
Hey, Larry. It's Kevin Lockhart. Just wanted to call you in today, encourage you to keep on keeping on. Can you tell me briefly where your origin story begins in terms of the libertarianism for New York?
I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and I'm kidding. But that is kind of a cool story, though. The Spider-Man origin story is a cool story.
All right, well,
but
we'll get to it in a minute because I called in for to ask you a very specific question.
Tell me.
Sorry. Hey, just wanted
What's
to
the
say
specific
thanks again
question?
for picking up the third-party movement.
I'm sorry, ask again.
I'm sorry. I keep talking over you, and then it's muting. And so just want to say I appreciate what you're doing. Want to call in and encourage you to continue doing what you're doing with the third-party libertarian movement. Hey, you mentioned the rising crime in New York, so I thought I'd call in and respond to that today because the opportunity came up. I'm not sure. So I'm a part, just to preface this question, I'm a part of it's kind of like a support group for moms is what it turned into. It's called the Peaceful Warriors, and it's just people awesome people that I introduced to one another along the way. And today, there's a lot of moms who are responding to a lot of things happening in the world and in politics. But
so tell me what your question is, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little long-winded. So the question is, did you watch the video of the people in the neon leotards attacking somebody on the subway in New York?
I did.
Okay, so I didn't. Well, can you tell me more about that and respond to that incident specifically? Because it came through this morning in the chat group.
So let me talk about violence in general. Violence in general. Why do people go to violence? Why do they go to violence? There's several reasons why people go to violence, and we should understand this, right? The first thing is what I talked about earlier in the show, which is you create a black market, which we did. You now have thugs to enforce your black market. Thugs who are in the black market don't have cops in courts, right? They can't call the cops if someone steals their product. They can't go to court if someone, breaks their contracts, agreements they make. They can't do that. So what option do they have? Street justice. That's their option. So now if I'm in a black market and I say you're going to give me X $1,000 for Y product and you don't, I can't go to court. I can't call the cops. I send my thugs to shoot you in the face or to beat you to death in public so everyone knows if you break Larry Sharp's contracts, there's a price to pay. I'm not joking. That's how street justice works. That's why you find such openly daytime public violence. This is almost all street justice, gang violence, trying to enforce contracts, trying to enforce, property rights. I know it sounds horrible, but that's what it is. That's why we have a society, cops and courts. You don't require that. Black market makes that happen. So that's piece one. But when that begins to happen and people see it more and more and no one steps in to stop it, or they just go, oh, it's just bad people, or won't explain why it's happening. Well, what happens is that becomes the norm. Violence becomes the norm. Violence becomes okay to settle differences. At first, it becomes contracts, but then it becomes, I'm angry at you. I'm disappointed in you, whatever the case may be. So now people who aren't violent, they go to the nonviolent way and say, hey, government or environment, whatever the case may be, please stop this violence. I would like it to stop. I don't like violence. I would like to solve my problems without violence. And when government does nothing and just allows violence to continue, even the nonviolent go, well, so this is what I have to do? They start doing it. And then that becomes more of the norm. If you remember 2 years ago, Kevin, we didn't have this kind of violence in New York City. It was very rare, but it did happen, but very rare. What has happened is it has become the norm. People have believed that this is the way you do things now. I can't get a job and I want cool stuff, or I can't get the cool job my friends have and I want cool stuff. I saw Bob and Tom go just take stuff. No one said a word. I'm going to take stuff too. What, am I stupid? I'm the dummy who sits here and does the right thing and I get nothing? Well, I'm going to go be like these guys. I'm going to hang out with them. But there goes to one more point that I'd mentioned. The 16, 17, 8-year-old, when they ask about the future and no one has an answer for them and they're too young to understand. When they see no future, they have nothing to lose. So why do I care if I hurt somebody? Why do I care if I do something bad? Who cares? They don't care. They don't care about their own future. If you don't care about your own future, why are you going to care about somebody else's? So it comes to a point where it doesn't matter. Let me get mine now before the world ends. I'm just going to see myself in jail anyway. So let me have a good time before they lock me up. So I'll do whatever I want before they lock me up because I don't see a future. The most dangerous thing in the world is young men with nothing to lose. More dangerous than anything else. And that's what we've created. Now I add one more piece of that. That affects the people in the green. But there's one more side of violence we haven't talked about. The lockdowns also made sure that people who need help, whether that's addiction help, whether that's mental illness help, couldn't get help. And they were more lonely and more stressed out and more concerned and more lost than ever. And if you know anyone who's an addict or you've been one yourself, the last thing you want is more loneliness and more solitude and more despair. If you don't have mental issues, you will have them. And if you have mental issues, you'll have worse. That's how it works. That's not Dr. Larry Sharp saying it. That's human nature. That everyone says that. Loneliness and despair makes whatever problem you have worse. And at one point, you start becoming violent too. Larry, you're saying that the biggest chunk of violence is because of government lockdowns. Yes, literally, yes. And I would ask you, who else is telling you that? They're not. The Republican says, oh, it's lock everybody up. The Democrats are like, there's no problem. What's wrong with you? No, there's a problem. And just locking everybody up isn't the answer. Should you lock up bad guys? Yes. But then the same thing happens again. I'm sorry. I went longer this time, Kevin. I hope I answered your question at least.
We could chat for a while. I could respond to. So I'm going to let you go. We probably have more people calling in. But, hey, appreciate you, Larry. Keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. Excellent. So I hope I answered this question and got a little excited on that one, but that's good. I'm going to grab another call if I could. I'm going to grab Keith from Rochester. Keith, how are you?
Not good. Listening to that, you and Kevin make it way too complicated. In your own words, in New York City, there wasn't that much crime long ago. You said we should always strive for equality. No, not if it leads to equity, which is a Marxist term, which leads to...
I didn't say equity. Don't put those words in my mouth, Keith.
Well, that's what it leads to, and that leads to restorative justice. Listen, we have the problem, in your own words, we didn't have crime in New York City. What caused it? The policies of the Democrat Party. They claim to care about these young men of color because it's that category. The black male is causing the problem. The root problem is the Democrats got their clutches in the strongholds like New York City, and you can't turn it around. Well, put guys like me in there, we would turn it around. Now, admittedly, in the beginning, there would be a lot of locking up to do because there's nothing to do. You have animals roaming the streets. It's not the fault of the vast majority of Americans that because of poor policies from the Democrat Party have allowed these young men to become animals and wolves. So in the beginning, to restore things, we're going to have to lock these guys up. There's nothing else. You cannot allow criminal animals to roam the streets. So if that means locking up, and here goes, 2,000 black young men, we lock up 2,000 black young men and even throw away the key. But that's what happens when you allow the Democrat Party, the worst entity ever created in American history, going back to the 1820s with the Klan and everything, that everyone is the Democrat Party. And until you, Mr. Larry Sharp, face the racial issue and do away with equity and restorative justice, we're going to have these animals and wolves roaming our streets.
Well, let me touch a couple of those things. One, there's parts of that I completely agree with, the parts I don't. The part I agree with is I think we are going to have to lock up a lot of people. And that sucks. And that's why I said, even though they are victims, they are also the bad guys. You got to put them away. And I hate it. I don't like that fact, Keith, but I think you're right. And all I'm saying is the reason why it's happening is because of what we have done. Now, to agree with the we part, I also agree with you. Democrats did a terrible job. De Blasio was the worst mayor that New York City's had in my lifetime. He was terrible. You're right. He saw this coming. He made things worse. He didn't repair. Now, the current mayor, Adams, is not a great mayor either. However, the bar, that de Blasio set, I mean, anybody could walk over. So he's better than de Blasio, that's for sure. So I do think that is that's correct. However, two parts I disagree with. To think that I, Larry Sharp, do not attack the racial issue is incorrect, my friend. I am the only guy who will talk about race anytime all the time whenever you want me to. I am not afraid to talk about race. I've done it many times. And you are right. Most of these perpetrators in New York City are black. That's, I think, Rochester too, if not mistaken. They are. That's correct. I don't want to lock them up, but I know that you must lock up people who commit crimes. I agree. What I don't agree with is locking people up for crimes that aren't crimes. And what I mean by that is things that do not create victims, right? So I have a substance. The fact that I have or sold the substance is not a crime. The fact that I knocked somebody over the head and took it, that's a crime. That I shot somebody, that's a crime. That I robbed somebody's house, that's a crime. So you have to lock them up. I agree. And I don't care if they're black or white, Hispanic. Doesn't matter. The issue is I want to change the environment so that less of those young men make that choice, and so that less of the, to your word, animals, the zookeepers, the people who are making the animals, those guys don't have recruit force, and they must do the dirty work themselves, and we put them in jail. The problem when we create the black market is the worst guys aren't doing the bad things anymore. They're sending out the kids to do it because they can. I want to get rid of that too. Lastly, I don't want to throw away the key. We should have bail reform, not equity. You said that, Keith, not me. I said more equal. And you should be more equal. But it doesn't mean you let everybody out. It just means you let first-time offenders have a better chance at having a second chance at life. I think that's a great idea. You do want to have prison reform, not equity, more equal, more fairer, to include corrections officers who they never include, ever. You got parole reform to include parole officers. Most people who go back to jail for parole violations, it's not because they did something bad. It's timing issues. We can adjust that too. But the problem is most parole officers aren't included. We just make these rules. The parole officers can't even deal with it. Everything begins to fall apart. If we take the people, we add law enforcement. Here's the other problem, and I hope this is clear with my left-right paradigm. We have people who say, back to blue no matter what. They're always right, always. No, they're humans. They're right and they're wrong. And then the opposite side, the left. Oh, cops are bad. Oh, my God, don't listen to them. Who cares about corrections officers? You're wrong, too. I need everybody involved in solving these problems. The cops are on the front line. The corrections officer on the front line. And the families of criminals are also on the front line. And the family of victims are on the front line. And we're not putting anyone together. We're doing a left-right paradigm. I'm sorry, I went long, Keith. Did I at least answer your questions?
No, not at all. Until we get law and order, that comes first. Everything else, the social problems, can be swept aside. People have every right to demand safe streets, safe environment. Until that is restored, you have nothing. And it's a lot of gobbledygook. Got to go in and arrest the bad guys. Then we talk afterwards. But the bad guys have to be taken off the street first.
I don't think we're in disagreement on that first piece. I agree. My point is, if we just do that, we just bring the 90s back. I don't want to bring the 90s back. I want to do that and then fix it so it doesn't happen again. So I'm not against, again, I don't think we disagree on the first part. I think you don't care about the institutional fixes. I just care about both. I think that's it. Keith, I love when you call. Thank you, my friend, for this call. I hope to hear from you very soon again. Guys, we have to go to a break. Larry Sharp here, WYSL, Rochester, New York, a free solution, 585-346-3000. Back with more calls, and I will get to your chat, I promise, after the break.
Fly the flag, stand for freedom. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
I'm Stephen Nichols. Since 1984, Nichols has been family operated and a trusted name for home service. We provide plumbing and electrical installation and service, and I am thrilled to announce that we are growing and looking to add to our scope of services. We are looking for a professional handyman who is skilled in drywall repair, carpentry, and more. If you are interested in joining the best team in Rochester, call 585-299-3101 or visit nicholselectric.com to fill out an application.
Did you know that 4 out of 5 car seats are used wrong? Sheriff Thomas Doherty wants to make sure you are using yours correctly. Infants should be rear-facing until they are too big for rear-facing seats. Children who are over 2 years old and weigh 35 to 50 pounds should be in a forward-facing seat. After 50 pounds, children should be in booster seats until they can use adult safety belts correctly. These are only guidelines. If you have any questions or concerns about your seats, please call Livingston County Sheriff's Office at 585-243-7100.
Celebrate the bountiful Western New York harvest at the Agricultural Fair this weekend. Genesee Country Village Museum shines in its finest fall colors. Enjoy non-stop activities in the tradition of country fairs. Livestock demonstrations, laugh along with a famous one and only Punch and Judy show. Get your boogie on with live music. The Agricultural Fair, October 1st and 2nd, 10 to 4 at Genesee Country Village Museum in Mumford. Save $2 on pre-sale. Visit gcv.org.
FM Talk.
I'm Jim Van Bredero.
I let you go long on that because I knew you had to get that said.
Henrietta, Brighton, and the entire
That's why we went longer there. So this is a short break. Stand by.
Majority Democrats continue to pass knee-jerk laws that violate our constitutional rights. Concealed carry, the COVID quarantine mandates, all struck down by the courts in the last few weeks as being unconstitutional. As a former police chief, I took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution of both the United States and the state of New York. Our one-party rule seems to have forgotten their oath of office. I look forward to earning your vote in November, where I will be your voice in Albany. Paid for by the Friends of Jim Van Bredero.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it's Larry Sharp. Back here, WYSL, Rochester, New York. A free solution, 585-346-3000 is the number. Thank you for giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. I'm very happy to be here. And before the break, we were talking about law and order and crime. What do we do and how do we fix it? A couple good calls came in. I want to grab some of the chat, if I could. Some of you guys online who are watching, talking about things. So yeah, John says, in my line of work, I got to see COVID money get spent on a lot of drugs and useless things that people did not need. Yeah, right. The idea of locking everybody up, giving them a bunch of money and encouraging the black market and then being surprised when there's more violence is insane. We literally created the perfect storm and then we're surprised. There has been a big difference, right? And to Kevin's point, earlier caller, we've made violence in certain areas the norm. And this kind of goes to Keith's point, right? Keith's like, lock them up. Well, while I hate the idea of just having to do that, he's got a valid point. And if we had spent more time locking more people up earlier, it would have made violence less the norm, and you'd have less nonchalant violence, if that makes any sense. Is that making sense? Random violence. You have less of that. The early violence, if you remember, almost all of that, the early violence, was gang violence. That's what it was. And it has now moved into normal, everyday violence. That's become a more common thing. You throw money at people and lock them in homes, what do you expect? That's what I'm saying. We have to make sure that doesn't happen again. So the hero says, Larry Sharp for governor. Thank you. I agree. Yes, absolutely. John goes on to say, they did bail reform just before elections to give both sides something to draw the attention off the real existing issues. John, I think you may be right on that. You couldn't have done bail reform. I don't think you could have done bail reform worse in New York State. I mean, you really would have had to try to do it worse than they did, right? I say it again, you'll never hear me not say this. The concept of bail reform is a good concept. You should try to make everything in the justice system as equal as you can. Of course you should. But the way they did it, oh my God. And the judge is even worse. The judge is not striking it down. The judge is not trying to stop it. The judge is letting people out when they knew it was bad. I want you to think about this, John. There's judges right now know that the guy or gal they're going to let out, it's almost always a guy. The guy they're going to let out is a violent felon, multiply convicted, has missed court dates, and the judge says, my hands are tied. The law says I must let you out. Then why are you a judge? I don't need you then, do I? I'll just get an algorithm to replace judges. I'll save a lot of money on robes, and they'll still let criminals back on the street, but just cheaper. We won't pay as much. Done. You're a judge. Judge. They don't do it. They sat back and went, out you go. Then you might go, but Larry, it's his job. Lots of people have bad jobs, so don't do it. And you're a judge. There's no recourse for you. No, what are you gonna get fired? No, you're just gonna go to appellate courts. They're gonna get mad at you, or those judges might actually judge and say, wait a minute, this doesn't work. This doesn't make sense. No, we're gonna agree with you, which is actually what I said 2 years ago. One of the rare times I was wrong, and I admit when I was wrong. I thought judges would fix bail reform. I thought there's no way judges would let literally murderers, again, literal murderers, back on the streets. And they did. I was wrong. Wow. I thought our judges were more human, but I guess they're not. Anyway, so yes. Anyway, sorry about that. You guys got me going. You guys got me going. All right, let me grab a couple more if I could. Let's see here. Kim says, good afternoon from the Big Rotten Apple. That's where I am. Now Major Adams wants all delivery bike riders to hang out at newsstands as we don't have enough of a mess on our sidewalks. You know, Kim, Adams is not a great mayor. That's true. But I'll say it again. Adams or de Blasio, if that's all I got, I'll take Adams. And he's not a good mayor. I am just so disgusted with how bad de Blasio was. And I guess I'm making Keith's point. He was such a bad mayor. He made everything worse. He was worried only about equity and nothing else. And if anything else collapsed, he didn't care. Did not care at all. It is terrible. Logic says, neon leotard on the subway attacking someone. Yes, sounds like NYC, all right. It does. And for those who don't know, there were, I think, 5 or 6 women who were dressed in green, like alien leotard costumes. I don't know why. Maybe they were at a party or something. I don't know. And then they got into a fight with 2 people. And I think they started it. It's not clear from the video, but it looks like the green women started it, beat these other 2 women up, took their stuff and left. Meanwhile, everyone just watched. And I might say, why do they watch? You New York people are bad. No, man, I'm gonna make Keith's point again. Keith, damn you, I'm gonna make your point again. To Keith's point, in New York City, you can't defend yourself. You can't. If you go in and try to stop that, you're probably going to jail. And most people aren't going to help you because they don't want to go to jail. It's not because they don't want to stop it. The problem is if I get in there and stop those girls, in reality, could a strong male, 2 strong males, physically stop those 6 females from that fight, from taking that, from robbing? Yes. Doing so would have hurt those 6 females, though. 2 men would have had to beat up 6 females. Those 2 men are going to jail. That's it. They're going to jail. This is New York City. Those 6 women will be the victims. The 2 men will go to jail. How do I know that? We saw the bodega guy. He was literally accosted. Guy was bigger than him, stronger than him, younger than him, was threatening and physically beating him. The guy grabs knife, defends himself, jail. So this is a system that encourages this. And I'll say it again. People react to the environments. We must change the environment.
Joe Schenectady.
There was another place, I think it was Texas, or maybe it was Florida, where a kid comes in, jumps out, beats up a guy who was robbing somebody. They gave the kid a medal. Never happened in New York City. Never. That kid goes to Rikers Island. So, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm making Keith's point. I should stop. Anyway, I hope that answered your question at least. Let me grab a call if I could. Joe from Schenectady. How are you?
Hi. I've been listening to you talking about the judges with the bail reform. And I remember a few years ago when the bail reform went in place, the judges did not have discretion until like a few months ago. They had to release everybody. They didn't actually have the discretion to say, that they could they had to stay in jail, even if you knew that the person should, because they were a repeat offender and stuff.
Yep.
So now I think that it's probably a little bit better, but it's not. It's still, even though they gave discretion back to the judges, people are still being let out. But
so let me cover
what do you
both of
think-
those pieces if I could. Piece
Yeah.
number one, I know they have no discretion. So what? Let me give you an example that I give all the time, but I'm going to give it anyway because it really is an exceptional example. Let's say there was a law that said if you were 16 years or older and you were convicted of graffiti, the mandatory sentence was mandatory minimum was death. Be sentenced to death penalty. You're a judge, Joe, or I'm a judge. This kid gets convicted of graffiti. He's in front of you. Do you sentence him to death? You have no discretion. That's mandatory minimum. Would you sentence that kid to death? No, I don't care. I'm not going to murder a 16-year-old. No, I'm a judge. It's a stupid law. I'm not going to sentence him to death. No. Take me to court. Have other judges decide it. Let some other judge overrule me and sentence some kid to death. That's what I'm saying. They had the choice to do that. You have no discretion, but you're a judge. You don't get fired because you make a bad judgment. Judges been making bad judgments against me literally for years. None of them been fired. So you don't get fired because you make a bad judgment or go against the law even. You don't get fired. So they have discretion by default because they are a judge. So they could have done it, but they didn't. And you know why they didn't, Joe? Because they didn't want anyone telling them they couldn't have discretion. And that's why when they have it now, it's temporary. They still won't do it. They want the law removed, so they have to have discretion by law. That's terrible. Shame on all those judges.
Thank you.
That
Thanks
makes
for
sense?
taking my call. I hope you're the next governor.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Yes. So that's where I stand on judges. I'm sorry if I'm a bit passionate about it, but people are being hurt. People are being killed, literally. Murderers are coming back out on the streets, and judges could stop it, and they're not. Am I wrong? Tell me. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharp, WYSL, Rochester, New York, on a free solution. Back after the break.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
As a veteran of the United States military, I can finally get the opportunity to enjoy special events, things that we couldn't afford, thanks to VetTix. Every empty seat at a concert, a game, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Visit vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
WYSL. Getting podcasts of your favorite WYSL shows is easier and better than ever. Use your favorite device, PC, mobile, or tablet to visit WYSL1040.com. Simply click on the podcast.
Okay, we got Craig Miles from Clinton.
Instantly. Works great with any wireless device.
You're welcome.
When additional apps are necessary. Podcasts of all our local shows are easier to access and play, so share them with your friends. And thanks for listening anywhere, anytime to the voice of liberty, the WYSL stations. A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Yes, I am back. You thought you got rid of me. You did not. Larry Sharp here, Auto Free Solution, WYSL, Rochester, New York. So happy you give me a chunk of your day. And we have been talking about crime and justice and law and order. And I hope it's been a good show, but we're not done. I want to grab, if I could, one chat. It's Joseph. He says, "Hey, Larry Sharp, do you feel that police are essential to any community in terms of law enforcement? 90% of the police are generally good people, and I'm a fan of broken window policing, where if someone jumps a turnstile or steals somebody's wallet, they should be punished for that. And if you do that, it will prevent other crimes." Let me cover a couple of those. I believe policing is critical. You got to somehow police your community. Does it have to be the modern day police force? I think individual communities can decide what works best for them. If you like that type of policing, you should be able to do so. I am not a fan of the governor firing DAs and firing police chiefs. I think local people should decide to be policed how they feel they should be policed. If you would like a more hardcore law and order DA, a more hardcore law and order traditional police force, I'm okay with that if you think that's appropriate. Local people should be policed how they feel is appropriate. Do I think that most cops are good? I do. My father was in law enforcement. He was a cop first, then he was a corrections officer. I do think most are. I do. I think most people who join a police force are trying to do the right thing. I think many of them become burned and then they become bad. I think many of them do. Too many. I still think most cops are good people. I do believe that. And there are people who are probably mad at me for saying that. But I do think it's true. I mean, I've met many cops and there are some jerks. There are some bad guys. Clearly. I mean, yes. But I still think that most are good. I would agree with you. I think we need policing, but local people should decide how they want to be policed. Do you want a sheriff and a couple of deputies? Do you want a modern day police force? I'm okay. I think either of those are okay as long as the local people are satisfied. That's my most important piece. So I'm going to grab a call if I could. This is Craig from Clinton. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Larry?
What's going on?
Oh, just calling because we're talking about crime, and I find it ironic that the tough on crime candidate here in New York State is a criminal himself.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, he copied all those things, right? To try to get on the ballot, that's illegal, isn't it? To try to get on the independence line.
Here we go.
That's a bad.
Yes, that's true.
You could make the argument that that's a bad law, but he broke it, and he would say he would say it's irrelevant whether the law is bad or not. You can't break the law, and he broke the law. So
that's true.
I guess we can trust that he'll be going up for trial here pretty soon.
I like that. Yes. No. For those who don't know, there is an accusation that the Republican governor candidate tried to get an independent line and allegedly, I don't know if it's true, but allegedly photocopied 13,000 false signatures and submitted them to the state fraudulently. If that's true, then he should. But you and I both know nothing's going to happen to him. If it was me, I'd be in jail now. Literally now, I'd be doing this show from Rikers. I'd be doing this show from Rikers Island, Greg. You're totally right.
Yeah, I guess I'm just sick of the hypocrisy from the candidates, from their minions, from everybody. It's convenient to have values and morals and whatever until it's not anymore. And then, well, this is different. This is different. You don't understand. No, I do understand. That's the issue. You don't understand.
Yeah. And look, you know me, I want just laws. I don't want laws. I want just ones. And most of them, the ones we have now, at least 75%, probably 90, but it could just go away tomorrow and it wouldn't matter.
And this is what I like about sunset laws. I had never heard about those until you mentioned them, but I think that's a great idea.
Every law, and let me say this again for everybody, every single law should have a 6-year sunset provision. What does that mean? That 6 years after the law is passed, it must be repassed. If it isn't repassed, it goes away. Now, no one's going to say, but then, Larry, what if we forget to pass murder? Somehow we pass the budget every year. We'll figure out how to pass murder. Do you want to be the guy who forgot to pass the murder law? And even if you do, let's say they screw up and forget to repass the murder law. Then the guy will still go to jail for, I don't know, manslaughter or whatever. And then we'll repass the murder law that day. Once we figure out, oh my God, that guy killed somebody and there's no murder law against murder. I can't imagine it even happening. But people always say that. The reality of it is The vast majority of laws, if we forgot to pass them, nobody would even notice. Murder laws, fraud laws, theft laws, those matter.
The best part of that I love is it keeps them busy, so they don't have time. And by they, I mean the legislators, keeps them busy renewing old laws instead of coming up with nonsense to make me live my life how they want me to.
100%. Oh, wow, Craig, well done. That's the best reason for sunset laws, to stop them from passing more dumb laws. I love it. Keep passing the murder law. We should make the murder law have to be repassed every month. This way they can never pass any other laws.
Keep passing it. Hey, they do it with the COVID bullshit, the COVID nonsense, right? They do that all the time. Yeah, we're every 3 months we're doing that. So yeah, why not? Why don't we just?
They find time to let Governor Kathy Hochul keep having her emergency powers. They keep finding time to renew that.
Yep.
They can renew murder.
Yeah,
I'm in, brother. I'm in. Thanks for the call, man.
100% agree. Much better use of their time.
Here we go. Thank you, my friend. So yeah, I mean, I love sunset laws. Wow, so good, so good. That was off topic, but man, that's right on the money now. I love that. That right there will keep the dumb laws from being passed, and we could just keep the good laws like murder and stuff. I'm not against murder laws, guys. I'm not. It's fine. It's a good thing. Fraud, theft, all those things, assault, all good laws. But the law that says you have to look at my social media before I purchase something, I don't like that law. That's a bad one. We shouldn't have passed that one. Yes. Matthew says, but if the substance you're selling is poison that kills enormous amounts of people, not only is that a crime, it's one of the most heinous crimes there is. Drugs like fentanyl are killing mass amounts of people all over the country, especially now with our wide open border that organized crime gangsters are taking full advantage of. Well, that part you're right. Yeah. Although I agree that addicts are victims that need treatment instead of poison, drug dealers are monsters who belong in prison. Well, let me touch a couple of those pieces. You brought up a lot, and some of that I agree with, right? The border, you can have, and I've already explained my policy for this, you can have vibrant, liberal, to make some of you conservatives angry, liberal, legal immigration and still have a secure border. You can do it. It's challenging, but I've already given my policy. I can't do it now, but I will another show if you want. You can do it. It can be done. You should be able to secure your border and have vibrant immigration. It can be done to stop the bad guys from coming across the border. But I would say the same thing as I would with cops, as I would with immigrants. The vast majority of cops are fine. There's some bad ones. Vast majority are fine. The vast majority of immigrants are fine. There's some bad ones. So let's find a policy to get the bad ones. That's number one. Now, when it comes to fentanyl, if you have an addict in your life, you'll understand something. If you have an addict who is a opioid addict, not necessarily alcohol or something else, but opioids, they often look for the hardcore high. They're looking for fentanyl. I'm not joking. They're looking for it. Now, some aren't, but many are. But here's the next piece. Why is fentanyl a thing? Because bad drug dealers push it? No. Drug dealers don't want to kill their customers. That's not what they want. Ask any of them. They will tell you that. They don't want to. These people want it because they want the hardcore high. They're looking for things that OD and kill people. I'm not joking. That is a thing in the addict community. And the second piece is, why do we even need fentanyl? Because it's a war on drugs. What's killing these people? It's not fentanyl. What's killing these people is the war on drugs. If we have safer drugs, cannabis products, safer Adderall and cocaine and heroin, safer drugs, they wouldn't be dying. They might still be addicts, but they wouldn't be dead. We can fix them. That's what matters. Guys, thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I do care about you all. I will see you all very soon.